Alright, yeah, Army Institute Professional Development Subcourse Edition TR0635 Edition 8 of Military Train Operations. Introduction to Illinois Cell and Center Passenger in the Rain Number 1 Cannonball ran into the fog with the darkness early morning with April 30, 1900, having the one with the speediest schedule in the railroad history. The Cannonball Chicago News Orleans Express was Illinois Central choice with a run with a distinctive record have had established during the 10 years of the throttle. Casey Jones was given with the run among the dispatch. Casey was regarded as the fastest roller and engine man who could depend on to get the train over the run over the schedule to take advantage of every break he could. Given at his passing points, he never drew all the coal and water stations and cinder pits. Tracks never wasted time along the road. Casey was a man to keep the Cannonball Express on the adversity. Soon after midnight, April 30th, 1900, Casey famed the last trip that began with the Memphis, Tennessee. His engine number 382 had plenty of steam pressure and was ready to go. Because number 1 was late arriving, the Memphis, Casey had an order for the Memphis Sardis, Mississippi, appointed with the 550 miles ahead with his freight train coming from the north. The single track line was the only thing that headed toward him for the 2 weeks previously. Rainy fog weather had prevailed. The clouds were now low and dark after about an hour traveling with the Cannonball reached the Sardis on the south of the steam. As soon as the Glendale with came the Wiona, the Durant, the last lost time was being whittled until nothing. All that went with the Cannonball was past the 6 mile north of the Canton, and at the scheduled time, no more orders had been received. Down the track of the road with the Cannonball soon approaching Vogue, Mississippi, 12 miles over the Canton. Vogue was in the lower end of the double S curve of the north switch, about the middle of the first S. The Cannonball bowed down on 2 red lights with the flare in the front of her. The men with the train out in the clear. The train had been solved another southbound train shortly before, and doing so had so pulled out the draw heads of the further to the going clear with the caboose. The other cars were out of the main line, resulting with the Cannonball into the scarlet dead of the engine. Casey Jones, our well-known history. The Vogue in the northbound freight was swaying at the south switch, and the crash occurred at 352. 3.3 a.m. and 3 a.m. 52 minutes at 3:52 a.m. and the Cannonball was due to the Von 350. It was due to pass away on the dot. With the disabled rim was protected with a torpedo flag when the brand landed, should have been with the remains of the man of the conjuncture. Each one of them with a wreck with the told the story. The one person who could have given the best explanation could not testify. However, the fact that the remains of the train did direct the track of the equipment would have damaged on the rail of the track was delayed with the 2 automatic block signal warning engine man before it about this like of the freight transport projecting on the side of the main line at the north end of the Vaughn siding above the spot with the Casey wreck with the 2 sophomores standing guard with the blinking yellow, red, and green through all kinds of weather at the night. The story of the Casey Jones has retold with the emphasis of the importance of railroad operating rules. Singles over the safe, the efficiency of railroad. All personnel involved with the train operating with the U.S. military railroad must perform the duties according to the rules, Technical Manual 55-200 Railroad Operating Rules. The rules are adopted by the Standard Code of Operation with the Association of American Railroad, which govern the operation of the commercial railroads in the United States. Both civil and military railroads must not only know these rules, but also obey them. The reference text consists of the 2 chapters annexed that discuss the railway operating rules governing with the military rail operations method of the train operation and the theater rules of the movement of the train order and the timetable of some of the railway signal that affect the movements of the train. 1.1 Introduction. Discussion of this chapter would be presentation portion of the railway operating rules, so-called the general rules. Following the discussion, definitions pertinent to the terms used for the railroad, explaining what the operating rules determine the train superiority. Finally, different type of the military train generally found when the theater operations are explained. 1.2 General rules apply with the personnel with the transportation rail service that say with the early operating of the TM 55-200 adopted the Association of American Railroad Standard Code of Operating Rules because of the railroad operation, military railroad operations may differ from civil operations. Some of the rules have been modified worded differently than the way they're given in the standard code is better control operation, particular Department of the American Department of Army Railroads. The rule lettering of the numbers of the text corresponding with the text to the TM 55-200 for the following general rules, self-explanatory, quoted directly from the TM 55-200 Railway Operating Rules. Rule A. Possession of manual and timetable. The commanding officer's personnel with the duty to regulate with the rules of the manual will provide the individual copy of this manual with a response for the observance of such rules. 2. The personnel duties are in a way of the effective by the timetable will provide with a copy of the current timetable while carrying it while on duty. Rule B, knowledge of the rules. And the personnel with a conversation will they obey with the rules and special instruction rules. Request will be made with the proper authority. The explanation, any rule, the instruction not understand. All personnel whose duties are concerned with the movement of the train with becoming familiar with the rules governing other the personnel as well as the rules will govern them. They will be prepared to perform any duty to ensure safety in the emergency. Rule C, examination. Personnel whose duty for the effect of these rules must be passed the required examination. Rule D, the personnel affected by the rules. All personnel engaged in any service of the train are subject to the rules and special instructions. Rule E, violation of the rules. Person remembering all assistance possible in the carrying out the rules and special instructions must report any of the violation proper authority. Rule F, reporting hazards, accidents, failure to supply with the water, with the fuel, the act for the track of the bridges, signals, any other usual conditions which may have the effect of the movement of the train may be reported with the proper authority with the quickest and most reliable means available to the personnel will alert all the times to detect the valve or unserviceable equipment of the track. They will proactively observe in the passing of the trains for any of the defects such as sticking the brakes, braking, rigging down, hydrants, protruding objects will signal to the train crews call the attention to the defect. It's not possible to communicate with the train's engine crew, but the train dispatcher will notify it as quickly as possible. The defective unserviced track of the core, the equipment will be protected properly if the facility material repairs are not available. G. Intoxicant. Narcotics. The use of the intoxicants and narcotics while on duty is prohibited. Personal reporting of the duty under the influence of intoxicant narcotics will be subject to disciplinary action. Rule H. Rule 8. Smoking restriction. Smoking will be restricted if required. Such that the restriction will be issued. The division superintendent of the transportation officer will conform to the instruction by the higher authority. Rule J. Identifying the badge uniform personnel will required. Will the personnel prescribed identification badge for the personnel with the uniform with the fatigue closed unless otherwise ordered. Rule K. Courtesy and discipline. Personnel must be courteous, orderly, and quiet and while on duty and about the stations in and about the trains. Personnel who are reflect the discredit upon the Department of the Army will be to disciplinary action. K. Rule L. Protecting of the property. Personnel will unite to protect the government property in case of the damage. Rule M. Safety. Personnel will exercise care to avoid injury with themselves or other observing the conditions. Equipment and tools will perform the duties. Equipment of the tools found defective will be practical but in safe condition with the necessary protection will afford all the defects and will be reported to the proper authority. 2. Personnel will inform themselves of the location, structure, of obstruction with clearance or closed. 3. Personnel expect the movement of the train and engines, cars at any time or any track or in either direction. 4. Personnel may now stand in the track at the front of the approaching engine of the car for the purpose of the boarding. 5. The personnel will observe the rail safety rules listed in Department DPAM 55.1. 1.3. Added rules. The rules given in the paragraph designated with the added rules of TM 55.200 apply with the military train operation. Discharge of the duty. Personnel will not absent themselves with the duty to exchange duties to substitute other persons in the place for the property authority. Ambulance trains and cars. Extra precaution will be taken in the movement of equipment designed used as ambulance trains or cars. Accidents. Personal injury in a train with the accidents involved with the injury with the training of the personnel with the passenger. First aid with it must be administered with the necessary. With the chief of the dispatcher must be notified promptly with the required reports must be submitted. The necessary medical assistant will be called quickly as possible. It will be responsible for the conductor comply with the provision of this rule. The conductor is incapacitated. The next senior crew member will act in his place and make the narrative reports must be names and witnesses if any must be secured and reported. 1.4. Important rules. None of these rules must more or less important than the others. Particular emphasis should be placed on the first 3 with the rules A, B, and C with involved with the railway operation. You should have the rules in possession, know that them thoroughly and be interpreted accurately. If you do not fully understand them, and then ask some of the qualified person who does not have explain them to you. You should prepare to take the satisfactory complete examination of the rules at any time, and most important of all the rules, you must obey the rules. Before continuing the further discussion of railway operating rules, you should have the understanding of the railroad terminology. The following paragraph to define for the common railway terms you should be familiar with it because they are used extensively throughout the remainder of the test. 1.5. Railway term. The definition of railway terms used by the TRS personnel sometimes different from the use of the AR or commercial railroads. Most layman the following terms definitions pertain with a clear understanding of the text current traffic of moving over the trains the main track of the one direction specified by the rules on a single track line with many of the trains must run one way as the other. The current track in both directions on a double or multiple line track that with each of the trains is designated with the current traffic established according with the direction of the train movement on it. For example, suppose you have the double track line connecting the Pittsburgh with the Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. One track would be eastbound, the other would be westbound. Division Port, the railroad assigned with the supervision superintendent in the TR's Transportation Railway Battalion. Commander is the Railway Superintendent Battalion under the command normally assigned with the rail divisions of 145 to 241 kilometers, or 90 to 150 miles in length. Engines used in TM55-200 means for the railway locomotive that 1A, the properly propelled form of energy, 2, the combination of such for the units with the steam operated with a single control, U for the train, the yards for the TRS, normally U for the diesel electric locomotives. However, the use of the railroads, any of the equipment found in the theater, including steam, electric locomotives, and electrified railways. Extra train. Train not authorized by the time schedule that may be scheduled for the extras for the extra train, except for the passenger, extra work, extra passenger for the extra train, extra work of the train, extra. Every train carries a white classification signal on the front of the locomotive and always be authorized by the train order. Fixed signal will be fixed location for the regulating railroad traffic. Main track and extending through the yards between the station upon where the trains operated with the timetable train or the both of the use of the governor but the lock signal with the pilot qualified personnel assigned to the train one, the engineer or the conductor both are not fully familiar with the physical character of the rules governing any of the portion of the railroad other than which the train is moved with the regular train as authorized by the time schedule. Schedule that part of the timetable prescribes the class direction number, the movement of the regular train. Section 1 of 2 more of the train runs with the same schedule displayed signal with the signals are displayed with the lighting of the track of the auxiliary main track connected with the switch box at the both ends with the prevent train with the clear with the main line. And to meet the paths of other trains, it should be long enough to contain the longest train permitted to operate over the division. Single track man, the track of the pond with the trains are operated with the both directions. Station plate designated with the timetable name with the superior train having the precedence over any other train timetable authority for the movement of the regular train subject for the rule with the contained specified classified schedule with the special instruction relating to the movement of the train. Train engine, one of the more of the engine coupled with or without cars display marked with the markers are attached with the rear of the train with the discuss more in detail with the paragraph 214. Most laymen think of the car and cars and the caboose pulled on the engine. This is not always true with the display marker before it constitutes the train with the train must have an engine. It must have markers. Train with the superior class train with the given with the preceding of the timetable to go with the opposing of the train with the inferior class train with the superior direction train with the given precedence for the direction specified in the timetable opposing the train with the same class with the train superior right train with the given the precedence the train order yard system the train with the defined with the alignments with the provide with the making up of the train storing with the other purposes over the movements of the authorized with the timetable by train order by made by subject of the prescribed scheme of the signal or rules or special instructions. 1.6 rules governing the superior over the train. The preceding definition of the rail terms should be help you understand the following explanation for the train superiority with this information with the reminder of the text. When the trains are operated with the rail net, one train they have at the stop of the U with the track of the two and the other. The train stays on the main track of the to be superior to the other. The particular common with the operation is over the single track line with one of the train has superiority or over there, and even in a double track operation, the train superiority is simply a matter of the train that's siding with the which takes the siding which will train continue with the main line with the train superiority and other right in class direction. Word of the superiority conferred with the train order and issue, but the authority over the signature of the chief dispatcher of the class of the direction with the conferred with the timetable of the one direction with being the superior with the other trains in the same class with the right of the superior with the class and direction because of the clear and understanding with the train superiority and imperative. The rules specifying how to determine the single and double track loaded in the TM55-200 rules A and the prefix S is for the single track and the nose of the prefix D is for the two or more tracks. Rules with the prefix are both single and multiple tracks. Rule single track 1 with the general with the train superior with the other train right in class direction right is confirmed with the train order and class direction by the table. Rule right with the surprise right is superior to the class of the direction superior between the train of the same class. Rule double track 71. General, a train is superior if to another train by right or class. The right is conferred with the train order class by the table. The right is superior to class. Rule 72 in class and direction. Train with the first class with the superior to those in the second. The train with the second class are superior to those of the third. So on. The train in the direction specified by the timetable is superior with the train with the same class in the opposite direction. Rule 73. Extra trains that are inferior to the regular trains. Alright, 1.7 example of the train superiority. The following examples explain how the train superiority class directions established for the timetable, but they illustrate how the right is confirmed with any of the train for the other purpose of the assuming the railroad shown figure 1.1 signal track standard gauge divided in its train theory operation extend from the port of the railhead through the stations A, B, C, and D with the level on the only sidings of the division located at these stations. The timetable for these divisions over the two classes of the regular train with the schedule of the superior train direction as each for the port of the railhead. The three hypothetical operations presented with the figure are separate, but the situation having three different times that it could not happen concurrently. This shows the theoretical railway divisions between A, B, and C, and D, and E. Support for the second class of the number 512 with the report of the station from the rail A with the railhead with the first class of the train number 3 with the left of the port station D with the port with the train number 3 with the order line meet the number 21. 512 with between C and B, but however, do you not want number 3 to stop in the hill with the slower speed and for the superiority class for the number 512 with the second class number train number 512 will be taking the side and clearing the main track with the B with waiting for the number 3 to pass before it proceeds superior to trains that determine the class established by the table. Now look at the figure 1 with the usually defined with the conflict between the train with the same class. For example, the direction stands determined for the train with the superior, but remember the superior direction given them in the timetable is each of the port of the railhead. 2 first class of the trains are involved. Train number 6 with the head with the station A from the port with the train number 5 with approaching the A and B. The number 5 will take the siding with the A, wait for the number 6 to pass before the continue with the port with the because the number 6 in its superior direction. Again with the figure 1-1 with the dispatcher wish if they overrule the timetable authority issuing the train order number 8 with the first class of the train approaching the station D with the superior direction. However, the ambulance train with the extra 303 west with the ready with the depart with the railhead or station E with the hospital located near the port because of the ambulance and the train with the near normally given priority. The dispatcher issued with the train order shown in figure 1-2 with the give of the extra 303 west right over the number 8 in the first class of the train will go beyond the station number 8 D before the extra train has arrived. The superior is taken away from the number 8 with the right and conferred with the extra 303 west. Order must be issued for the number 8 first, then the extra 303 west. Each of the operator received his order with the right, then receive the repeats back to the center with it for a check for accuracy. The preceding paragraphs explain with the train with the superior order, the right and class the direction. The next discussion is presented with the type of the military trains used in theater. These show the train orders, hypothetical division train orders, and 1-8 type of the trains. The 4 basic type of the trains generally found within theater are the freight, passenger, ambulance, and work train. The unlikely commercial railroad in the United States Transportation Railway Service does not normally give the passenger superiority over the freight train with the move with the supply with the support with the combat services, combat forces in a theater of the military mission of the TRS. However, the troops are movements. Take priority over the movements of the passenger train when they may be given the superior order with the freight train for the train order. Also with the track with the must also be clear with the obstruction when the lines must be repaired with the work train when they are given the proper priority over all the trains in the type of the discussed with the train discussed in the subparagraphs. A freight train discussed because of the importance of the carry the bulk supply with equipment to support military activity. The theater would normally have the priority over the other railway track, the exact ambulance track. Trains to and kinds of the term freight trains with the through local thorough and through local, and their trains carry the priority of the freight. It would generally go from one terminal to the next without changes, consistent with it from the origin destination. Local trains pick up and set off for freight cars and cars to stations that along the divisions. Passenger trains are transported personal baggage of the mail, the coaches, and the cash cars, though usually already within the theaters. Although the passenger mail baggage and cars are preferred, with the box car, gondola, flat cars may be used as necessary. Ambulance and hospital trains exclusive for the moving the sick, wounded, but they usually give it the first priority with the third over the operative with the passenger, extra with the required with the medical command with each for the car of the train with the position with the mark with a red cross. They marked for, when so marked, it should not be within knowing anything not connected with the ambulance service. Work trains can carry maintenance personnel with the equipment that are used for the operation of the laying of the new track, spreading the ballast, move of the wreck train with the side of the derailment, the authorized by the train to occupy the track whether the service is required with the time limits are given. The train order cannot be extended unless the new train order is cancellation of the original one with establishing new limits with the train accident occurred with the track of the block. The special type of the work train and wreck train is sent when the equipment is to clear the track. The train is authorized by the train and order as superior rights. 1-9 summary. The general rules for the governing personnel with involved with the operation of U.S. Army railroads represented with the TM 55200 for the railway operating rules for the adoption of the standard code for the operating rules association of American Railroad. Each person who do these are regulated by the rules in this manual. Must be provided with a copy of it required to know and by that may be able to pass examination rule of the manual. The purpose of all these rules of the TM 55200 to ensure the safety, efficiency, operation train with over the military railroad. Trains have superior by right and class with the direction established by either by the train order the timetable. And remember them having any of the train with having the superiority class and direction established with the timetable may have the superior change of the train order while one train is given the superiority over another. The train order is superiority in the right and convert with the train order. The 4 types of the trains normally found in the theater are freight, passenger, ambulance, and work trains. Chapter 2. Movement and control. We're going to cut the tape.